In a colorful fantasy world, clever Barney just finished a new invention to make life easier for everyone. His older siblings, Cliff and Lucille, he praised his skills, calling him a city legend whose inventions made life easier for everyone. His sister hugged him before parents arrived, proudly declaring Barney their greatest pride. Armed with elite magic engineering skills, Barney vowed to protect his home and family. It began with a tired, unambitious man hitting rock bottom, exhausted by endless work, woken daily by an irritating alarm. Fight through stuffy carriage crowds. He dragged himself to the office, dreading his boss's constant scolding, endless work orders, and demands for late nights. He felt he had no choice but to obey his superior. Past midnight, he finally finished the task. He sprinted for the last train, but as he charged up the stairs, dizziness suddenly overwhelmed him. After a strong blow to the head, his body lay motionless, consciousness faded, and a cold thought struck him he might die now. Childhood memories flood back, a final vision before death. His parents died at birth, leaving him an orphan, but the shelter was kind. Without family, uncontrollable loneliness consumed him. After school, a void consumed him. Dark company exploited him, making him feel worthless. I doubted life's meaning, desperately pushing forward, tears streaming. He prayed for a loving family in his next life. He dreamed of love and self-worth, but as darkness took him, a soft voice whispered a name, Barney. He woke to a kind woman, apologizing for disturbing him. It was time for his knock. Unaware he was reborn as a baby, he struggled to process his new reality. Then Scott arrived, further puzzling Barney, already confused about the milk. He figured he was in a hospital, but was stunned when his voice wouldn't come out. He couldn't grasp how Dorothy easily carried his large self. Scott drank the milk and realized he'd turned into a kid. Sucking his bottle, he questioned everything. He should have died in that accident. But now, he's in a strange house. It wasn't a foreign country, but a fantastic world, straight from a fairy tale. He thought he died, then found himself a baby in an unfamiliar place, reborn. He stared at Scott and Dorothy, his new parents. Just then, the Warney siblings arrived, faces glowing. She showed off a golden flower, matching Barney's hair perfectly. Lucille claimed she found it, but Cliff proudly admitted they pooled money to buy the exquisite flower as a special gift for Barney. Barney instantly knew they were his older brothers and sisters. Lucille handed him a flower. He unleashed the blessing, sending shimmering butterflies swirling around a stunned Barney. She wished him a bright, happy future. Stunned, Dorothy praised her young blessing magic, while Lucille proudly claimed she mastered it for her brother. Jealous of his sister's spotlight, Cliff bragged to Barney about his elite sword skills. Sword indoors, impossible. Cliff promised Barney he'd show off his swordsmanship tomorrow, assuring him he'd protect his younger brother from all danger. Lucille appears, shielding Barney with magic, but they immediately start arguing. Scott stepped in and patted their heads, saying they're already strong enough to protect him like loyal siblings. Cliff sneered. He was Lucille's older brother, but she told him to just take the praise. Dorothy tasked them with dinner. Barney watches their tender moment. He finally saw a real happy family. He wasn't alone the next day in the family carriage. Barney loved the world's scenery, and after lunch, they headed to the capital's great cathedral to test their skills. They'll visit Scott, the capital's respected silver master, at his workshop, then head to the cathedral. Cliff trained diligently with his sword, striking a tree spark with speed and accuracy. Barney stared in shock, but Scott explained this was just Cliff's routine training. Cliff was a natural swordsman, dreaming of becoming a legendary adventurer and conquering the world's deadliest dungeons. He kept a strange stone, just in case, promising Cliff an experienced adventurer if he broke it with a sword replica. Lucille was a natural magician with massive, undeniable talent. Barney was surprised to learn about his siblings' natural talents and impressive abilities. He assumed Scott's rare craft lacked an heir, but Scott proudly revealed he forged Cliff's sword replica himself. Barney pointed at the workshop. Scott stopped him, warning that the workshop was packed with dangerous, complex gear. Barney was crushed. Scott patted his head, asking him to show his craft skill at the evaluation ceremony. But he wanted his children to follow their own paths, living the life they truly desired. Then Dorothy begged him for help. Barney wondered what jobs and powers he'd get after the ceremony. A shattered, legendary blade emerged from the blue cliffs. Tears streamed down his face as he choked out, "His father labored to forge this sword just for him." Barney panicked, seeing his tears. "I thought I could fix the sword, but I hadn't shown strength yet." Suddenly, a transparent screen popped up before them. Item lists and materials popped up. Barney didn't understand the screen, but he could make selections just like a game. The screen showed a menu of one-time revival perks, upgrades, and repairs. Barney was puzzled. He knew magic made anything possible. He gathered materials to cast this mysterious magic. Barney needed magma ore for the repair, but he couldn't get it right away. Barney scanned the area, spotting his brother's pendant, faintly glowing. Cliff approached, oblivious, as Barney waved his tiny hands and squeaked loudly for attention. He smiled, apologized for showing his pathetic, tearful side. Because his brother couldn't see the mysterious light, Barney became even more convinced he had extraordinary power. Barney yanks the necklace, pulling Cliff closer. Cliff stumbles forward as Barney reaches for the broken sword. The sword hung, glowing magically, for the family's unconditional love. Barney would give everything for them. The sword was restored instantly, leaving Cliff stunned. Stunned by his younger brother's skill, the sword instantly struck him. The sword was sharper and more balanced than ever. Cliff held his ground and swung with massive force. The solid stone shattered, and Cliff and Barney were speechless at this impressive strength. Cliff cheered, finally breaking that stubborn rock, and thanked Barney for his quick help. A massive crash sends Scott and Dorothy racing over to find the stone shattered. Cliff exclaimed. Barney miraculously fixed his sword, shattering a stone as Scott examined it. He stared at Barney in confusion, while Barney stood stunned by his own power. Scott sighed, relieved his sons were safe, but eyed the rock suspiciously. I made him strike the stone again, refusing to believe he had that much power. After greeting the cathedral's rector, he carefully lifted Barney, teasing him as the show's star. In this world, jobs define your profession and unlock unique skills based on your role. A hidden special ability lets you master a rare profession through individual training. After birth, everyone undergoes a ritual to find their job. The pastor leads them to a room where a crystal ball sits on a pedestal. Pastor wondered Barney's profession, his brother a promising swordsman, sister an outstanding sorceress. He took Barney's hand and placed it on the crystal ball. It showed the exact same status screen Barney had. The pastor was stunned by the extraordinarily bright glow from the crystal and quickly exposed Barney's weird job. He built magic gear. The pastor had never seen this rare profession, but it was Scott's job, making Barney perfect to lead the workshop. Scott smiles, leaving the final choice to Barney and promising to support his son no matter what. His family cheered. Their faces lit up at his loving words. Scott lifted him. Barney finally realized he had a rare shot at a loving family. Now he'll do anything to protect his family's happiness. Determined, he vowed to master magic engineering and grow strong enough to protect his family in this new world. Barney watched Cliff practice sword under a bright sky. His fencing was sharper. A year after the ritual, His brother's been training his sword skills non-stop. After Cliff cracked Iraq with a replica sword, Scott introduced him to an adventurer, but Barney remained clueless. As a magical tools engineer, he could test his powers, but feared his family forbade such experiments. Barney watched his brother train relentlessly, then cleared his mind. He enjoyed the day instead, as it was huge for his family. In the carriage, Scott announced Lucille Academy enrollment was soon. Dorothy suggested a picnic beforehand. Lucille hit 7 this year. As a master sorceress, she skipped the Royal Academy's entrance exam and enrolls in a week. At first, Lucille was happy, but leaving her family clearly hurt her. At this boarding school, she'd only see family on holidays, making loneliness inevitable. Cliff jokingly tousled her hair, telling her not to look so sad, promising fun at school. They reached a stunning lakeside, ringed by lush trees, where Barney had a secret plan: make warm memories with Lucille. They froze, stunned by the beauty. Scott said it's a hidden gem near the royal capital he discovered as an adventurer. The royal cause barrier blocks monsters. Smart high rankers can break in, but they avoid human settlements. Barney wondered if Scott was an adventurer. Despite the deadly monsters and dungeons, he was hooked. Scott told Dorothy to give Barney a protective charm and pass another to Cliff. His magic had worn off. Dorothy slipped the necklace onto Barney, who instantly recognized the pendant as the piece he used to fix his sword. Scott let slip. It's a simple aura talisman, but teased a hidden future purpose. After a warm chat, he strolled around the lake with his family. Exploring together, they bonded as a family, playing with local animals and weaving flower wreaths. They fished the lake. Lucille's rod suddenly pulled. They all grabbed the sturdy rod. Together, they hauled a huge catch. Soon, a delicious fish dish arrived. Lucille admitted she wanted Barney to taste the meal she caught herself. Cliff jumped in, proudly claiming their support team landed this massive catch, but she claimed she pulled him out herself. Barney focused, his face beaming with joy as he spoke in a creaky, determined voice. He barely managed to call Lucille and express his admiration, proud his practice finally worked. Lucille's brothers overwhelmed her, yet unexpected gratitude surfaced. Dorothy Erid smiled, saying Lucille was lucky her sweet brother calls her his older sister. From then on, Barney lived to create a lifetime of endless memories with his family. After lunch, Cliff asked his dad to walk with Lucille and Barney, but Scott warned them, stay near the picnic. They delved into the dense forest canopy. Lucille asked Cliff about the person their father promised to introduce. Cliff replied, law says join the Adventurers Guild at 13. He is only 9, just a student under this person, far from dungeons or great adventures. He warned Lucille, the dungeon isn't a walk-in. Unlike this one, most dungeons lack protective barriers and safe zones. Confused, she told him real adventurers can't avoid dangerous places. He inadvertently confessed his dream. She kept pushing. He suggested returning to the parents, but Arnie heard a strange rustle in the bushes. Wanting a closer look, he sent Cliff to check the area. But as Cliff boldly pushed aside the bushes, they trembled as a massive white wolf loomed before them. Shocked by its massive size, Barney thought it was a monster. Normal wolves aren't that gigantic. Cliff shoved Lucille and Barney behind him. Shaking, she couldn't believe he'd face that monster alone. He'd bait the monster while they warned their parents. But despite his brave act, he was terrified. Barney found a new way to save everyone from the beast. But the wolf slowly rose, taking trembling steps towards them. The wolf snapped its head around with a piercing glare. Barney sensed no threat, only that the beast was clearly in pain. Cliff, protective, demanded Lucille take Barney and run, but she wouldn't abandon him. Barney, however, suspected this wolf was no ordinary monster. His father's words about intelligent high-rank monsters made him wonder His father's words about intelligent high-rank monsters made him wonder, if the wolf is smart, it's likely behind a barrier and they can talk to it. Suddenly, Barney's talisman glowed. A familiar transparent screen appeared, and he realized it was happening again. Now, he was confident they could handle the situation safely. Quickly, he grabbed the shining talisman, then took the scarf, directing his raw magic into it. He handed Cliff the newly enchanted scarf. He motioned him to place it on the huge white wolf. Lucille worried about the danger, but Cliff trusted his younger brother's intuition. The monster didn't attack, so they warily closed in. Approaching the wolf, he apologized for drawing his sword and promised peace if it didn't attack. Cliff approached, and the wolf sat submissively as he draped a scarf around its neck. The wolf liked the scarf, Cliff smiled, and the divine beast Alberos introduced himself to ask for a favor. Cliff agreed instantly. He, Rulusil, and Barney froze when the divine being spoke like a human. It was impossible. The wolf sat by Barney's stroller, explaining his knitted scarf, finally let them understand him. Barney's translator worked perfectly, and the wolf was peaceful, but its urgent plea intrigued him most. Lucille asked what happened to that magnificent creature, as it seemed in pain. Alberto admitted he was hiding from an illness and couldn't move, begging them for a recovery potion. Lucille instantly knew it was magical poison, so Cliff pressed for details. She said it was poison infecting his magical energy. Once infected, he'd gradually lose movement. She explained magical poison can occur naturally, or a specific regional variant exists. Sensing the danger, Cliff declared an emergency and demanded their father alert the Royal Wizard Guild immediately. First, Lucille hugged the furry woolen stick and magically healed him. Alberos was stunned as the magic instantly healed him, while Cliff was shocked to see his sister could heal too. She admits she hasn't mastered it yet, learning only enough to keep her family safe. Albero thanked her for the timely assistance and offered to repay her. To everyone's surprise, she calmly asked the beast to live with her family. Barney knew Lucille was smart, so a deeper reason drove her hasty decision. His hopes shattered when she cheered about always wanting a big dog. Cliff explained Alberos wasn't just a dog, it chose its own fate, while Alberos stated it long-watched human society. Sensing an opening, they asked to adopt the Alberos, and Scott and Dorothy surprisingly agreed. Dorothy saw it as good workshop advertising, but Barney feared she'd turn the sacred being into a mere mascot. He was surprised Cliff already called him Al. Scott revealed Barney gave Albaro the magic scarf, pouring his soul into it to protect his siblings. He gave Barney a heartfelt thanks. They welcomed Albera into their family. No one objected. They needed her help. Ever since, Alberos swore to protect them like family. Their family grew. Years passed in harmony. The kids promised to set out and chase their dreams. At the estate, a messenger tells Lord Zorian about the years-old poisonous magic outbreak. The cause was removed, but it's back. He asked Lord Zorian to let the Royal Magical Corps investigate the affected area. Next morning, Scott orders Barney and Albert to deliver the cargo fast for rare magic ore. Barney agreed, then immediately delivered goods with Alberos. Barney was hyped for the magical ore reward, explaining it was essential for a magic engineer like him. Over the years, Barney realized the true power of magic tool engineers. Magical ores crafted and repaired materials, but special items needed specific conditions. First, he needed recipes and levels. Materials unlocked them, but his profession level controlled his progress. The magic ore grants items special abilities, and its raw power is vital regardless of the level. Ore production plummeted, prices skyrocketed, making it tough to get these crucial ores. Pocket money was nice, but earning big magic ore was tough. Albert said that why Barney's diligence got him recognized. Everyone arrived and handed over the goods to the owner. Barney thanked Albert for the help and offered dinner, so he demanded a massive T-bone steak. Walking to the diner, a kind woman greeted them both instantly. They ordered omelette rice and a T-bone. Dorothy peeked from the corner and waved. As Albero noted, she looked much better. Her health was initially weak, but recently she feels well since she became the star of her aunt's cafe. Barney saw the family thrive since Alberos joined, believing it was a gift from the gods. Cliff and Petty burst into the diner. Cliff asked Barney if he and Albert helped their dad. Barney said they just finished. Petty smiled a warm welcome as Cliff stepped to the counter to order. Barney stepped in, apologizing for interrupting their date now that she was finally alone with his brother, her face flushing at his remark. Cliff arrived. She blurted he was just her friend. Unaware of her feelings, Cliff's confirmation shattered her heart. At 14, Cliff and Petty joined an adventuring party in Kajaru. Romance was blooming, but Cliff was clueless, and Petty was the daughter of their leader, Zack. He loved the daughter and Cliff. Becoming Cliff's second father, Petty truly saw Barney and Albertos as her own family. He asked Barney if they were off on a new adventure. Cliff denied it, claiming they'd finished herding and were reporting back to the guild. Petty blurted they'd collect magical ore after this, but before she said more, Cliff clapped his hand over her mouth, silencing her mid-sentence. Too late. Barney was too sharp to miss a hint that big. Buying aura costs a fortune, but harvesting it yourself is free if you survive the danger. If Barney somehow gets this, he could finally use unlocked recipes and boost his skills. Cliff refused before he could ask to join. Cliff firmly warned that curiosity is good, but Barney's only 6. Mining magic ore won't force them underground, but they'll still face dangerous monsters. Cliff feared for his brother and refused to let him get hurt. Petty intervened, calming him and promising Barney her help. Slyly, she asked if Cliff forgot KJRU's basic rules. Report any plan changes to the leader. He makes the final call. Despite guild protocol, Cliff claimed Barney was never an adventurer. An unexpected turn. Dorothy served their orders with a smile. Conley swore they'd be fine, telling Cliff to protect his brother himself if he was so worried. She let slip that Scott was once in Zack's party. She was certain he'd definitely say yes. She took Barney see Small Hands, asking him to express his feelings. Why did he crave magical ore and burn to engineer magic? Barney agreed. Dorothy suggested they head to the guild. They hit the noisy guild. Barney loved the lively chaos, his first time. Slapping his cheeks to snap out of it, he focused on getting the leader's attention. Cliff led him straight to Kayaru's inn. He assured Barney he'd be scared at first, but advised him to act normal. Petty said Zack looks like a stern gang leader, but assured Barney he's soft-hearted still. Barney couldn't calm down. Entering the tavern, Barney froze at the sight of Kaja's majestic leaders. Petty called him over worried, but Zack countered that simple things are often the hardest. He instantly faced Barney. Just like Dorothy, he nervously introduces himself to Zack as Varney. Cliff reported they want a favor. Zack looked puzzled at Barney, but Petty warned his frightening look would scare Barney off, leaving Zack confused. Barney Bradley wanted to join Cliff and Petty's magical expedition, so he asked to come along. Zack glared and demanded to know why he did it. Terrified by the pressure, Barney summoned his courage. He revealed his trade, admitting he's hunting magic to power his inventions. He's desperate to grow up fast. He vowed to protect his family, leaving everyone stunned. Zack unexpectedly patted his head, declaring he passed the test. Barney's puzzled look turned to joy. He thanked him, as Zack smiled, saying, Barney proved why Scott called him his pride and joy. A team of kids was too unstable for this mission, so Zack recruited a gilded adventurer named Joseph. Joseph looked young, but Zack trusted him to protect the kids from any danger. Smiling, he urged them to finish the quests and stay safe. Years later, they rehome. They sat before their parents and begged Scott to let Barney join the adventure. Barney wants to hone his skills. Scott hesitated, warning even simple gathering attracts monsters. Cliff promised Scott he'd protect Barney with everything he had and get him home safe. Dorothy nudged Scott for more freedom. Their kids grew up fast. Scott was surprised the kids grew faster than he imagined. Next day, everyone geared up for adventure. Scott trusted Joseph, counting on him as Joseph kept promising to handle it all. Scott's playful nudge urged them forward, instantly boosting their confidence. Riding through the forest, Joseph suggested a rest, since Rodneo Valley's magic ore was still 2 hours away. Deep in the forest, Barney asked about the forbidden zone they were passing. Alberos says this leads straight to the forest where they first met. Magic poison drenching the land. Joseph says poison hit the forest 5 years ago, and the Royal Corps spent a year scouring the area. Trade routes were open, but locals still feared the forest and lakes were magically poisoned. Barney told Albert the place felt lonely, packed with their memories. They reached their spot and immediately collected the magical ore. Arriving in Rodneo Valley, Barney was captivated by its amazing beauty. Joseph warned that although valley monster levels are low, dangerous creatures appear, so stay vigilant and focused. Tasked with scouting ore, Barney immediately revealed his newest invention. He pulled a mysterious crystal ring from his pocket, flaunting it. Cliff knew Barney was plotting something when Scott gave the okay and asked about his new creation. Barney didn't just talk, his skills spoke for themselves. He stretched his hands, a light beam burst, pointing to something vital ahead. The device tracks mana stones, and Barney insisted on helping the research. Joseph immediately used his impressive invention for research. Following the light, they finally found a fertile gorge. Its rocky land glitters with magical ores. Barney was proud and relieved his careful work with the magic item from the last assignment paid off. Joseph was amazed he could craft such useful tools. Barney admitted his work has limits, but with the right materials, anything is possible. Cliff flashed his sword, revealing Barney crafted it too, prompting Joseph to eagerly declare he'd order his next. The group moved forward, skipping those valuable magical horrors. They joined forces to harvest magical wars from the rocks. How they harvest tons of resources. Joseph S. shocked he gathered so many ores so fast. He joked this ring could outmatch Royal Academy elites at detection without complex spells. Joseph suggested Barney could do anything with his magic device, but Barney doubted he'd ever match his older sister S' magic. In Trady, Joseph mentioned Lucille, Cliff's sponsored student, catching him off guard and earning a sharp warning to watch his mouth. Barney asks if Lucille's tuition is totally free. Make Cliff admit Lucille's scholarship only partially covered her tuition. He could afford the cost, but their father clearly pushed himself too hard for Lucille. He had to become an adventurer fast to support his family. When Barney asked about his dreams, Cliff swore he'd become the world's greatest adventurer. He said the thought of exploring uncharted places, finding priceless treasures, and saving people from monsters makes his heart race. He loved his family and was thrilled to finally help everyone. He proudly said he'd make large profits and expand their workshop enormously. Barney vowed to become the capital's best magical engineer and provide for his family. Moved by his words, Cliff hugged him, proud of his younger brother. Petty spotted the blood-soaked weapon and wondered why she was even there. She alerted Joseph to the abandoned weapon. They likely belonged to travelers killed by terrifying monsters. Joseph warned danger lurked, urging a quick escape since they'd gathered enough precious magic ore. Sensing a sinister creature creeping up, Alberos' face darkens as he snaps into a defensive stance. Joseph immediately ordered everyone to hold position and stay alert. Their sudden shift left Barney baffled and worried. A huge monster materialized, its massive fists attacking they barely dodged. His sudden arrival stunned them. His power sent shockwaves, shattering the ground with bare hands. As he lunged, Alberos grabbed Barney and urged a retreat, but the others stood firm to defend their turf. I told Albert to let them handle it, as all three lunged at the beast. A strike could wound his large body. It roared and slashed back. Joseph saw the wound heal instantly. Cliff charged from behind, but the cunning monster saw it coming, countering with a powerful blow that sent him flying across the field, slamming him into the wall. The beast kicked Petty to the ground, but Joseph quickly tossed a smoke grenade at it. Giving them time to breathe, Joseph ordered the team to leave immediately. He raced to the capital for reinforcements while he held the line. Petty wouldn't budge, vowing they'd never leave him behind or escape. Joseph insisted elders protect the young, so Zack took him along. As the smoke cleared, Joseph barked at them to run. Barney knew Joseph risked his life for their escape, and his efforts would be wasted if they stayed. Leaving a comrade behind is unthinkable and betrays their bond. Huge stones plummeted from the cliff before Barney reacted. Alberos' incredible speed instantly saved him. He saw the monster was a strange breed. Even he struggled to protect everyone. Barney's choice was simple: run or stand and fight the powerful enemy. His crystal ring blazed, light beams shooting towards the landslide, reacting to something hidden deep in the shattered rock. That blinding light proved this was no ordinary magic. Only the great Magicor could break this deadlock. He glanced at the abandoned weapon and grabbed it. Alberos lunged, biting the monster seer's huge hand as Albani urged Joseph to buy them 3 minutes. Doubting him, Joseph urged escape, but Barney yanked away. He firmly declared he still wields his power as a magic engineer. He scolded Joseph for thinking of leaving them in danger and vowed they'd all return together alive. He demanded unwavering faith from his mother, Joseph, and the others were stunned by his bold words. Joseph chuckled. Their party makes no sense if he can trust his comrades. He told Barney to prep top-tier weapons for their return to the capital. They launched the plan, stalling the monster for 3 minutes. Joseph Dali vowed to make them rich. As Alberos fought the beast, Barney needed 3 minutes to craft a magic tool. Joseph agreed, told Cliff and Petty to stick together and coordinate attacks when the enemy focused on him. Then Barney called Alberto back. As divine beasts neared, it turned to Joseph, urging him to trust his strength. The trio readied to fight the monster. Barney told Albert to grab the large magical ore behind the broken wall. He rushed to gather the iron he needed. Meanwhile, Cliff thought, irritated. Too weak to change their fate, he hated relying on his younger brother to slay the beast. He felt pathetic St. Barney fights to protect everyone. Cliff cast his doubts aside and charged the monster again. Years of relentless training fueled him to protect his family and be his brother's role model. He refuses to let his dream of traveling shatter now and will never give up, no matter the odds. Cliff hammered the beast, while Joseph noted that acting alone was a major violation. Joseph and Petty bravely charged the terrible monster, never backing down. Instead, Barney gathered materials. Alberos granted him massive magic, which shone brightly, stunning Barney. The beast's growl shook the earth and shattered stone as it lunged at Cliff with razor claws. Cliff fearlessly parried the devastating sword strike. Joseph and Petty combined their strength to help him hold back the pressure. Blades tore through his fierce claws, but the beast stood firm, its massive paw sweeping, sending them sprawling. The monster smirked, and he froze. Barney was gone. Injured, Cliff surprisingly admitted defeat, vowing their shared opportunity wouldn't be wasted. Barney arrived with Alberos and blasted the beast with a blinding beam of light. A huge hole tore its chest. The monster crashed to the ground. The explosion spewed deadly gas, poisoning the air. Joseph recognized the magic poison and ordered everyone to cover up. Warnie didn't get the fuss, but before he knew it, Cliff rushed into a hug, crying with relief that Barney was safe. Shocked by his brother's emotions, Barney suggested they go home. Joseph couldn't understand how this weird monster had magic poison in such a safe zone. He set aside his worries. Everyone survived. That was enough, but none noticed a shadowy figure behind them, watching their every move. The Rodinio horror ended, and Zack quickly fenced off the canyon cliff, and Barney limped home, battered and bloody. Anxiety gripped the parents, but embracing their children brought great relief. Marnie thought life would return to normal, but fate had other plans. Barney and Alberos hit Auntie's diner. She greeted him warmly, expecting another favor. He heads to the workshop to help his dad, but notices it's eerily quiet for lunchtime. She said since the Barney team incident in Rodinio Canyon, clients dropped, and it's been ongoing. Barney says the diner mostly serves travelers, but with Rodinio Valley, Magicor's mining source, suddenly closed, adventurers relocate bases far from the capital as trade plummets. She panicked. Her shop is failing without those resources and the adventurers they attract. Ignoring his complaints, she apologized for the mood and took his order. After returning home, Barney thought the capital still investigated the magical poison. As the fallout spreads through the capital, fixing this will be a nightmare. As a magic engineer, he sought a way to convince adventurers to stay in the capital. He saw a large crowd in the distance and moved closer. Scott called him to silence the rowdy crowd. Barney watched surprised as the excited crowd rushed him, begging for weapons. One man claimed he'd heard about Barney from Joseph of Mirage, calling his weapons the capital S. Best. Barney loved the praise. He imagined his weapon famous among adventurers. Soon, crowds will swarm the capital for his skills. He knew this would boost Scott's workshop's finances, confidently declaring his skill as a magical instrument engineer. He took full responsibility for crafting everyone's weapons. After his confession, people clamored for custom weapons built for their unique styles. At a respected academy, a mysterious figure with strange footsteps approached Scholar Evans. He asked if he studied the magic poison alone. Evans called himself an ecologist, telling the man he researched magical poison for years. The man calmly warned of new magic poison effects, shocking Evans. The man asked if he'd join the experiments. Over time, the Rodinio Valley incident faded, but the situation hardly changed. Barney did what he could, hitting the Adventurers Guild to deliver the order. Zack and Joseph exchanged greetings. Zack gestured, inviting him for drinks. Barney's gear was famous across the capital, and Kajari was a hit with adventurers. Joseph saw Barney's anxiety. He asked what was wrong. Barney sighed, the capital S life fading, but they still had to push on despite hardship. After the incident, the capital's adventurers dwindled. This was his main concern. An annoyed Zack felt Zorian was overreacting by banning recordings for no reason. Barney doubted Zorian's harsh blockade decision, but Zack confirmed it. Zorian hated adventurers selling Magicor solo. He claimed no one knew when the Valley Seal would be removed again, due to persistent magical toxins. The forest closed 5 years ago, and people said it would stay shut for good. Zorian hiked the guild taxes, proving he didn't care about the adventurers. The capital would fall at this pace, and Alberos anxiously asked if Kedra would be all right. Zack said their skills were solid, and their elite hunter connections remained strong. New adventurers flooded the guild, making easy tasks scarce. Barney doubted more adventurers were coming since gear sales were a dead end, but then Joseph spoke up. They're selling the weapons Barney built to slay the Rodinio Valley beast. Barney said it was tough crafting the instrument needed tons of magical ore. He found it by luck, but the materials were too rare to mass produce. He realized dumping all energy on one shot is impractical for travelers. Scott appeared, asking if Barney was still with them. Marnie suggested heading back to the workshop, and Scott instantly agreed. Zack visited, assuring he could return to the guild if blacksmithing got tough. Scott humbly claimed he's already retired. After a quick chat, they split. Walking the streets, Scott asked what Barney was thinking. Barney was figuring out how to spread magic tools beyond just adventuring. Scott jokingly tousled his hair, praising his kindness and concern for others. Back home, Scott found a letter from the director praising the staff's skills after his daughter's visit. They officially ordered staff lines for the whole school. Gulf Barney and Scott were stunned by the demand for 50 sticks. The owner provides the materials and rare ore, and suddenly a glowing magic circle appears in the sky. The enchanted magic ore rain dazzled them, filling them with admiration. They'd fulfill the request. Back at the Elite Academy, Lucille grabs lunch with a friend. Lucille unwrapped her sandwich. Her friend asked if it was the popular limited edition, and Lucille confirmed she went to great lengths to get it. She admitted she missed home-cooked food. Her friend promised she'd see family once summer vacation began. Suddenly, a dove delivered a rolled letter. Lucille beamed with joy reading the message. She said Director Regale asked her father to make the sticks, expecting them soon. She told the director she used the sticks Scott made during training. Regale lauded the tool's quality for their stable magic, but Lucille never expected to ask Scott for them. She blessed the dove and let it fly as her friend cheered for Lucille's long-awaited family reunion. She reminded Lucille it was lesson time. Then they rushed to the East Wing for ecology. Walking past caged monsters, the girl admitted she'd never feel safe with them on campus. Lucille agreed it stayed tense, even with powerful magic maintaining control. A girl approached the monsters with medicine, while Jean stood calmly right beside them. Lucille's friend warned fear could make anyone run, adding the monster carriers were Mr. Evans' students. As they set off, the monster's sudden resistance caught them off guard. Jean stayed calm and used her magic to soothe the creature. The performance impressed Lucille and her friend. Casting calming spells needs words, but Lucille felt no magic, no mana. They shared a direct connection. Gina stroked the monster, clearly pleasing it. Lucille stood stunned by the child's insane power. She approached Gina, introduced herself as a magic student, and asked about her powers. She then asked Gina's name. Gina shyly introduced herself. Apologizing, she fled, left them wondering if she was just shy. Scott House Center Row buzzed everyone, ordered weapons. He grinds day and night to perfect every piece. They finished forging every weapon. Scott thanked Barney and Alberos for helping. Scott must deliver a massive shipment to the academy, but moving it will be a nightmare. But Barney always had a solution. Checking his materials, he asked Scott for a leather bag, metal, and magic debris. Scotland replied, "The bag and metal are easy to get, and he has scraps of magical ore from the staff." Confirmed, Ani instantly waved his hand, skillfully directing magic. He tossed the gear into a sturdy bag. It looked normal, but Scott watched in shock as Barney shoved a massive weapon inside. Barney bragged, "His magic bag has massive capacity and fits anything effortlessly." Scott lifted him up in joy, but Barney flailed, calling him out for acting like a kid. Scott proudly called Barney a brilliant young magical engineer, glad he's in his life. They stayed the night, delivering goods tomorrow. They suspected nothing, even as their kind monster radiated a dark, deadly aura. Next day, Scott, Barney, and Albertos reached the prestigious academy. He greeted his longtime friend, Will the Guard. She introduces him to her son as an old co-worker, vain and polite. He replied, introducing himself and Albert, Will was stunned to face a divine being. "I've never seen anything like this. Just ask why Scott came, if his name was on the guest list." Scott prepped the letter, claiming the order came straight from the director. Amazed, a former adventurer became a skilled blacksmith. The reader then heard Barney ask about his father's adventuring days. The question stunned Scott, but he was no ordinary traveler. The whole capital already knew his legendary name. He said he quit his adventurous life, feeling he hit his limits and couldn't develop further, while Scott gave up adventures to support his family, working 2 jobs. Barney's curiosity spiked. He demanded to know what his father did, but Scott was too ashamed to answer. A hand on Scott's shoulder and encouraging words boost his longtime friend's confidence. Scott sent Barney to Lucille while he took the sticks to the principal. As they left, he didn't notice the mysterious man lurking right behind him. Exploring the academy fields, Barney was shocked by its massive size. Alberto needs to know if he already talked to Lucille about their meeting place. Barney said she invited him to garden lunch. He relied on Lucille's detailed map from the letter. He saw the students staring. Terrified by a god suddenly appearing on campus, Capital knew the Alberos, but outsiders saw a majestic creature as a terrifying monster, so everyone stared. Barney hated how everyone judged his favorite albatrosses. Alberto licked his cheek to cheer him up, telling him not to worry about the small stuff. Across the garden, Gina sat gloomy, realizing those girls wanted friendship. But she couldn't grasp why she'd run away so cowardly. She knew they saw her talking to the monster, but they still approached. Barney sat by Gina while Alberos patted her, catching her completely off guard. She didn't know others shared her powers. She asked Barney if he could also speak with creatures. He replied he uses a magic tool to understand them. He asked if she talks to monsters. She hesitated, confirming it was a strange power. People always called her strange for talking to animals. Barney called it an amazing gift. Relieved by his words, she explained her remote village had no kids, so she talked to animals instead. Gina wants friends at the academy, but when someone approached her, she panicked and bolted. Barney saw she didn't fear the Alberos, and Furtish called her a truly good person. Gina, stunned by his calming words, said he reminded her of someone, but before she could add more, Lucille arrived and softly greeted her little brother. Jean's vision suddenly fears a free soul. Barney thought the person she mentioned might be his sister. Lucille hugged Albert and teased him. They left during the Rodinio Valley incident. Spotting Gina, she asked if she knew her brother. Gina brushed it off as a coincidence. Seeing his chance, Barney invited Gina to lunch. Alberos nudged her to join them. Barney dug through his tiny bag for lunch. Lucille mocked him, but she gasped when he pulled out a massive basket. Lucille pulled treats from a bag, recognizing another of her magical engineer's inventions, and praised him. Lucille loved the home-cooked meal, and Barney told her Dorota said to eat up and stay healthy. Lucille learns Professor Evans personally tasked Gina with monitoring the Academy's captive monsters. Gina claimed the professor needed her unique voice to handle them. Barney was surprised the Royal Academy kept monsters caged, and Barrow wondered if they were sure these creatures wouldn't rampage. Gina assured them the monsters were magically bound, sedated, and given preventative meds. Lucille said they raise monsters, conduct Academy research, and grow pain-killing herbs for drug studies in the garden. Regil loved his perfect setup at the Academy. She admitted she'd heavily rely on Scottish inventions. She boasted that Lucille's incredible grades deserve major respect. Lucille's a top student who just shattered the training win record, earning a massive reward. Regil stressed this came from relentless work, not just her talent. Scott Bean swelled with pride at his daughter's success. Regil promised Lucille was safe at the Academy. As Scott headed out, the suspicious man suddenly appeared, a sly smile on his lips as he formed a magic circle to block the director's office then asked if he made Scott wait long. Scott stayed calm, demanding the figure reveal its true identity. He refused to explain. Not wanting to bother the director, he named Scott and Barney, so Scott asked how he knew them. As the circle intensified, the figure declared Scott's son ruined her plan. Then an ominous crystal erupted, blasting wild energy into the enchanted creatures. Academy monsters broke chains, trashed rooms, attacked students, and alerted Barney. They didn't understand why those students were running for their lives. Lucille realized they were escaping a monster breeding lab as Gina watched the beasts unleash total chaos. Her tenderly cared for creatures continued devastating the area fiercely. Gina shouted in suspicion as poisonous magic leaked from their bodies. Lassell knew she couldn't hesitate. She drew her staff and aimed at the beasts, ready to strike. Gina intervened, vowing to stop them as she cast a spell. It barely affected the raging monsters. As the huge beast lunged at Jin, Lucille swiftly blocked the powerful attack, saving him. She froze the monster, but Janet desperately grabbed her sleeve. Crying, she insisted the monsters were innocent, apologized for failing them, and begged Lucille to spare them. Lucille hesitated, her resolve wavering, as the monster stalked another student ready to strike. Alberos charged, bit his huge horns, throwing him across the field. He yelled for the student to run to safety. Barney led the students to the exit, searching for a way to calm the beasts without killing them. Monster attacked Lucille and Gina. Lucille immediately raised a powerful barrier to shield them. Moving while shielded was tough, and she needed to heal. Barney thought he could paralyze them briefly. Lucille could use her healing magic. Suddenly, a brilliant idea hit him. He'd build a monster-stopping device, asking her to hold them off longer. He witnessed the true power of teamwork in Rodinio Valley. They joined forces to crush the immediate threat. Barney ordered Alberos to take him straight to Lucille's healing herbs. Wounded students on road, he had to act fast. He found her garden, a pain-relieving plant right before them. He needed a magic stone to craft the tool. Alberto heads off to save the students, while Barney promises to finish fast and catch up. Meanwhile, Alberta arrived at the chaos, quickly rescuing students from the fierce monster's relentless attacks. The divine beast lunged at the ferocious creatures, sinking razor-sharp fangs into their skin. Another huge monster lunged, goring Alberos. Blood gushed from his side. The shocked students almost ran, but quickly locked eyes with resolve. They shielded Albertus with all their strength. Students regained confidence and helped Albertus. They crushed the monsters and saved their elite academy. Alberta admired their unexpected determination. Scott confronted the suspicious man as a noise grew outside. He demanded answers, but the madman called it a mere experiment, refusing to let Scott or the director stop his plan. He cast dark binding magic on Scott, paralyzing him. Scott's a close combat fighter, but his magic clashes with his style. He smirked, saying even a famous adventurer easily fell to his magic, saving him time and effort. His smirk vanished as Scott easily shattered his magic. Scott emerged, pressing a dagger to the man's neck, warning even a short blade would take his head. Scott demanded answers for the student's suffering, but the man stayed silent, stunned that brute force crushed his magic. With one flick, he broke Scott's grip and blasted him with a spell. Scott was shocked the man was unharmed after he used a combat spell against himself. The man attacked again, arrogantly boasting he'd outpace Scott's speed. Scott attacked, but the man was unharmed, mocking his futile efforts. Another spell exploded, slamming Scott into the wall. He mocked Scott, claiming an ex-adventurer could never win and should just shut up. His family flashed in his mind. He decisively moved his hand, declaring himself a retired adventurer. This blacksmith would risk everything for his family. A flurry of knives appeared above his head, struck immediately, but he barely avoided the precise blow. Scott scrambled up behind the man and spotted a symbol on his cloak. Meanwhile, students struggled to keep pace with the monsters. Barney appeared with his anesthetic crossbow, unleashing arrows at the enraged beasts, quickly calming them to sleep in minutes. Barney crafted the amazing instrument with anesthetic curves, magical stones, benchwood, and iron. He turned to Lucille. She'd hit her limit, commanded their swift descent. He locked on to a massive monster and shot the arrow precisely. The anesthetic failed, and the monster's already awake. He was completely lost. Professor Evans arrived to investigate the magic poison, driving these monsters wild. Gina quickly confirmed she gave them his requested medicine, and he flinched at her words. He complained the magical poisonous medicine he gave was supposed to soothe illnesses, as the mysterious man said. Barney immediately suspected Evans' man, and Gina couldn't believe her own medication made the creatures act this way. Tears well up as she blames herself for the academy riots, clearly hitting her limit. Lucille suggested exploring. Everyone fought to tame the chaos. So will you give up so easily? She ordered Gina to snap out of it and help save the students. She ordered Barney to strike again, buying time for a vital heal while Gina recovered. She rushed to rescue her students and help Lucille through the chaos. She grabbed the staff and Lucille, instantly chanting the spell. Yan desperately tries one last talk with the tormented monsters. Lucille ordered Barney to use the anesthetic again on her signal. Gina penetrated the monster's chaotic mind to calm its rage. She promised to end this suffering. Her pleas failed. Magical poison blocked her voice. He couldn't hear. Lucille calmed thanks to her brother, but couldn't drop her guard. For best healing, she had to get closer to the enraged beast. Lucille never tried maintaining a power shield while casting a double healing spell. She doubted she'd nail it first try, and even if she did, her healing would be way weaker. In that moment, it was her only choice. In that moment, Gina trusted her. Lucille trusted Gina back. To end the chaos, she tightened security and went on full alert. With a nudge, Barney expertly fired a volley of anesthetic darts his way. Lucille prepared her healing power, instantly supercharging the anesthetic's calming effect. Gina used her powers to reach the creature again, apologizing for the pain and swearing she never meant any harm. She had no friends back then, but that isolation actually made school life easier. Once the beast recovered, Gina vowed to help after the chaos ends. She swore they were her world. Lucille mentioned being there for her, earning a grateful smile from Gina. Combining their magic, they vow to save everyone. The beast's, once fierce, instantly softened. His powerful body goes limp and collapses. Gina rushed to hug him, while Albani and Lucille high-fived. Scott still fiercely fought the mysterious man, dodging his next surprise attack. He relentlessly attacked with his swift dagger, yet the man remained strangely unscathed. He ripped off his hood, calling Scott tough but annoying. He didn't want to go all out, but now he has no choice. He snaps his fingers, summoning a dark magic circle. Ominous energy burst from him, forming a monstrous shadow looming over the man. Scott just laughed, declaring anything weaker than this challenge wasn't worth his time. Suddenly, the wall behind the mysterious man cracked. A powerful hand burst from the opening, instantly binding the man and tall shadow with a reinforced chain. He frowned. The man realized this was why he wanted to imprison the academy director. Regiel barked that this man knows exactly how to wreck an institution. Surprisingly, the man dissolved into oblivion, sinisterly smiling. Enough results. Scott couldn't react. The man vanished, mockingly saying goodbye. On campus, chaos settled. A guilty Professor Evans apologized, taking the blame, but Gina suspected the medications were the cause. A few doses drove subjects rabid. It was the probable cause, though other factors for their rebellion remained unclear. Lucille demanded where he got the medicine. He explained, a hooded man approached to test a tranquilizer of magic poison on their academy-bred monsters. He controlled the monsters and wouldn't let mystery substances in without a thorough check. The man handed over government papers claiming the drug calms people and stops disease. He grabbed the letter, revealing the king's signature. It burst into flames, stunning everyone. Lucille claimed magic hid every trace. As Barney pressed for more, Evans hid his identity, but his restricted government papers proved he was a high-ranking official. Key evidence burned to ashes, leaving no proof. Then Scott arrived with regale. He grabbed the man's discarded fabric. Seeing him injured, Lucille hurried to her father, asking his condition. He said the mysterious man attacked the director's office, probably the same guy who sold drugs to Evans. He spotted a mark on the man's clothes, and when Barney asked about it, Scott identified the Royal Corps of Magical Defense emblem. Regil said the Academy took serious damage, even if Evans didn't mean it. She condemned his reckless actions and warned that the group would decide his fate. While Evans bowed and took full responsibility, as the crowd scattered, Scott called for Barney. He warned his son the killer knew about the Native Valley incident, but Barney hadn't seen anyone suspicious on his trip. Scott tells the group to move on. Leaving, Barney pondered if the Rodneo Valley monster wasn't natural. It was a creature the man summoned and unleashed, baffling him why this figure hurt his friends and family. He knew the enemy would strike again. Determined, he'd become even stronger. He became a shield to protect his loved ones from danger. In Regilie's office, incident witnesses reported findings to the director. From their talk, she realized the attacker and drug dealer were the same person. Witnessing his power, she knew he was from the Kingdom's elite corps, a force that could finally rival their own. Scott worried this was far more serious than they thought. Regil ended the meeting, assuring them the Academy would secretly continue its investigation as everyone dispersed. She pulled Barney aside to talk. Scott said he'd wait outside while they sat on the couch. She apologized for cutting him off earlier. He remembered his weapon that calmed the Academy's angry monsters. Barney admitted it wasn't just skill. He borrowed Academy materials to build the magic device. Regil asked him to show her that unique magic. He pulled the weapon from his pouch and she eyed it closely. She praised his guts and his incredible inherited talent. Magical device engineers were a rare breed in that country. Only a master mage could forge a weapon like that. Few reached such mastery, and little was known about them. Hearing the director, Barney finally realized his work was legendary and his cause was unstoppable. Regil noted the Academy favors combat, but they currently lack any crafting students. For the Academy's future, she wants to learn about magical device engineering. Barney was the only engineer she knew, so she begged him to help her join the Royal Academy. Barney's eyes widened at her request, protesting he was only 6 and knew no magic. But seeing his resistance, Regil's expression froze, her tone chilling. He bragged about using the Academy's anesthetic grass freely, but her sudden attitude shift made him instantly reject her proposal. Barney left, shocked by Regil's sudden behavior. He knew his strength alone wouldn't solve all problems. He gaped at the yard's massive mess. Scott, on site, knew his blacksmithing and Barney's repairs could fix much. Scott and Barney teamed up to fix the damage. The student body rallied to support them. Will was okay, just a broken bone. Lucille instantly healed with magic. Barney spotted a student waving him over, desperate for help to fix the damaged building. Barney instantly restored the area with magic as more grateful students approached. They bowed, thanking Alberos for saving their lives. He dismissed their gratitude, quietly and dignifiedly stating that nothing matters more than helping each other in need. A student understood, seeing the divine beast's diligent help. Dante Judge, who in or out by looks, but by their hearts and deeds. They swore to grow stronger like Alberos, who saves others instantly, while Barney beamed with pride at his friend's hard-earned recognition. Across the academy, Lucille sneaks up on Gina as she sweeps the yard. Gina asked if Lucille finished the guard, Lucille instantly agreeing to help clean. Lucille asked about Jean's monsters, and Jean confirmed Regile let her keep them. They urged tighter rules until chaos stabilizes. Lucille knew recovery would take time, but she promised to raise the creatures with Gina as friends. Suddenly, her group arrived. They immediately hugged her tight, relieved she was safe. They were terrified, watching her fight monsters, but praised her courage and magic. Lucille modestly replied, "Success came from everyone's effort." They surprisingly noticed Gina. Praising her unique abilities, Karen and Melissa introduced themselves and asked her to be friends. Gina agreed, beaming, shook their hands as Lucille stood nearby, smiling warmly. That evening, at the academy gates, everyone bid Scott and Barney a sincere farewell. In the carriage, Scott asked if the director would admit Barney to the academy, and Barney confirmed. But he said Regile praised his skills, yet a recent event proved he urgently needs to get stronger. The tools were strong, but the boss monster barely flinched, making Barney blame his own lack of skill. Scott needed to get stronger. He wouldn't let the enemy escape again, but he was clearly slowing down. He'd get his revenge on that cunning man when they meet again. He told Barney about Stone, a village in Verdant Dagon, where a local sheltered him during his rookie days. A nearby mine was packed with magic stones. He invited Barney to join his upcoming training, and Barney was thrilled. He eagerly asked to join, while Scott reconsidered his original plan to protect your family at all costs. Back at the academy, Regile rushed to warn Lord Matthews about the incident. She reported document forgery and interference from the Royal Magic Corps. She personally delivered the critical report. She asked about the cases, but he denied everything and switched to Barney. Zorian arrived, calmly saying he overheard concerning rumors. Zorian's arrive, and Matthias cut straight to the point. I asked if he knew about the crisis at the Royal Academy. Zorian denied it. He couldn't ignore the Royal Magical Corps and their forged documents, so he launched an immediate Academy investigation, directly ordered by Prince Baker, the next king. Smirking, he asked if Matthias truly backed the investigation. Matthias crushed his anxiety and gave the green light. He told Zorian to tell his brother he'd be out for a bit. He rushed to meet a VIP. Days later, Barney and Scott reached the village. Barney's heart pounded. He leaped up, shouting the massive mine was visible. Scott told him Stone Village, though small now, once buzzed with life from rich magical ore nearby. After the school chaos, Scott took Barney to the village for magic ore, and Barney was hyped to explore. He remembered asking Dorothea's permission for the trip. She claimed Scott only came to the village to meet a certain person. Barney suspected Scott had another goal, sensing something elusive. Alberos warned Scott the forest linked to the others, questioning if this was normal. Scott confirmed the forest is sealed, but warned everyone to stay back and stay alert. Soon they reached the Stone Village outskirts. Barney was hyped to explore the village, but Scott insisted they meet the chief first. Deeper in the village, Barney sensed it was almost empty. Albero called the place dead right as they spotted a group gathered in the center. Barney charged in blindly, but their tense reaction baffled him. They bombarded him with questions, demanding his identity and his goal. Scott coolly told they hit up the sales head to track him down. Zelves immediately recognized Scott. His gaze softened, asking if this was the Scott he knew. Scott's greeting made Zill rush over, who noticed Scott's new strength, apologized for the rude crowd, and invited them home. Later, in Zella's house, he asked how Scott felt. Scott quit traveling and now runs a blacksmith shop in the capital. Zell faced Barney and Albert, asking their relationship. Scott introduced his favorite son and divine beast, stunning Zella, who couldn't believe Scott was now a father. Scott was stunned. Barney was his second son, and he had an older son and daughter. He named Barney Zill, the village chief, and his mentor. Zell was a fierce warrior, wielding offensive magic. Barney rejoiced meeting his father's legendary teacher. Zill thanked them for visiting, but apologized that the village's chaos ruined their welcome. Scott asked about the village's status. It was different, far gloomier. Zales reveals the neighboring Dagon mine collapsed 5 years ago. No deaths, but many seriously injured. The mine closed fast. With trade halted, many villagers left. Hearing this, Marnie turned to Albert, reminding him they first met in that forest. The mine linked to the forest, and Barney knew both disasters hitting at once was no coincidence. Zill added, due to circumstances, the villagers were tense, so he asked Scott to forgive their rudeness. A woman on crutches approached and warmly offered them tea. Scott asks if the mine collapse hit her, but Zell denies it, claiming he found her unconscious in the forest and took her in. He regretted they couldn't rebuild and equip the village for a doctor. Barney and Scott shared a look before Barney stepped in. He leapt up, offering to fix the entire village alone. Without a word, he bolted from the house, determined to repair damages. He fixed every broken thing in the village, even happily repairing the kids' gaming gear. Barney's insane skills stunned everyone. Zeld was shocked by his effortless repairs, saving a village that desperately lacked craftsmen. He told Scott he noticed his talent, then quickly got to the point. He knew Scott wasn't there just for small talk. Scott dropped the act and begged Sills for training, calling him master. Zial asked why he suddenly returned to training. Scott never regretted quitting adventuring. Only a master blacksmith could handle these tasks. He lacked the power to keep his family safe. He realized he urgently needed to be stronger than his past adventures. His kids grew up strong and resilient, chased their dreams. Just like his father, he had to shield them from every threat. He bowed deep to Zielson, begging for more training. Zill gripped Scott's shoulder, proudly saying Scott became a wonderful father while he wasn't watching. He vowed to repay his son's kindness. Zill pointed his stick, offering training on one condition. Scott knew it would be brutal, relentless, and require total dedication. Zells laughed, promising to whip Scott into peak shape fast. Smiling, he approached the wounded woman as she questioned his arrival. He noted her injuries. She blamed them on a mine collapse. She's healing fast, thanks to the kind villagers. Suddenly, Barney dug in his bag and pulled out the leftover magical ore from making the staff. He promised to build a special tool to help her recover. He told her to sit beside him. He focused and prepped the gear perfectly. He channeled magic, crafting her ideal tool. Mixing the materials, he crafted a plaster device. Wearing it doubles her healing power. It's weaker than healing magic, but Barney says she'll recover way faster. She thanked him for his help, and Barney insisted he apply the device to her leg while unwrapping old bandages. He ignored the mysterious tattoo on her leg, focused only on his tool. She thanked him, but admitted she had no money. Barney reassured her, glad his skills helped someone in trouble. She asked why he'd come to the village, but Scott knocked and called them outside. Barney bowed and headed out. Unaware of its strange, unsettling nature, Barney stepped outside and immediately offered to help. Scott mentioned a supply warehouse near the village, asking Barney to help with food. Barney immediately agreed as Zell apologized. The village is in ruins, but they've massively boosted their food supply. He warned them the Dragoness realm ruler changed, and they urgently needed to secure food for the village. Scott doubted the new lord was anything special. This confirms Zealous' reliability and his care for his people. He told Scott the person S on inspection and to greet him when he returns. Suddenly, a loud noise ripped through the quiet village. Running to the spring, they found a severely wounded, bloody soldier. He crashed down right before them, and everyone rushed to the wounded soldier. His squad couldn't be far, given his serious injuries and the distance he traveled. Zil rushed forward to save others, telling the women to treat the fallen soldier. Scott wanted Albert to track the blood scent, but Zell's refused to split up. Knowing where to look, Zell took command. Rushing to the likely scene, he said it was Lord Rios' retinue, clearly indicating serious trouble during their inspection. They spotted an overturned, broken stroller before them. Zell's was certain now the Lord's carriage had been ambushed. Alberos' sharp senses warned everyone to guard. Arriving at the chaos, the air reeked of human blood. They stumbled upon exhausted soldiers, desperately fighting a huge, fierce boar with only swords, the boar watching them intently. The beast lunged with blinding speed. Scott quickly lunged at the monster with his dagger. I struck a vital spot, paralyzing him for a few crucial seconds. His strength and courage stunned everyone. Zil, eyes wide, confirmed the precise critical strike. Suddenly, the boar snapped back, proving it's no ordinary monster. The monster rose and let out a roar that echoed through the forest. An arrow shot through his thick skull. Barney was a master archer, desperate for his upgraded crossbow to finally work. The boar stumbled and fell. Barney won again, with his exceptional skills. Lord Matthew and Ranba appeared, praising Barney's insane power and precision. Zil sighed in relief. Matthews made it out alive. Matthews reports they were ambushed, returning from the inspection. With minimal support, the situation turned critical. He couldn't believe his eyes. Barney was as powerful as rumored, but Barney had no idea. Matthias knew about Barney's Rodinio Valley victory and the Royal Academy incident. Smiling warmly, he offered his hand, saying he never thought they'd meet so unexpectedly. Barney shook hands and asked who he was. Zell stepped forward, introducing Lord Matthias of Stone Village. Matthews revealed a shocking truth. He was Raltubus' second prince. The discovery shocked Scott and Barney. Scott and Barney reached Matthews' massive estate, and Barney's mind raced as they walked the halls. He never expected such an impressive place near a modest village, feeling it unsafe for a prince in such a secluded spot. Matthews thanked them again for saving him from true danger. Scott offered help, telling the prince to ask if his soldiers needed backup. Matthias thanked him again, but he'd already entrusted it to Zeals. Barney expected an impressive prince, but his modest, kind response surprised him. Scott demanded why he brought them to his estate. Matthias sincerely asked them to team up. He explained several significant reasons he was Lord of Stone Village. Suspicious figures haunted the village forest, a zone the kingdom's magic unit watched, fueling his own investigation. He claimed it's impossible for civilians to enter magic unit's restricted zone, proving the violator info true. A 5-year search for the poisonous origin failed, and now the magic unit is tied to a Dark Academy incident. Matthews says he nearly died while scouting the forest alone. His assistant cut in, reporting a massive monster in Rodneo Valley that shouldn't be there. Alarming reports of mutated monsters at the Academy and a direct attack on His Highness today. Now they were certain a magic device summoned those monsters. Matthias knew their immediate goal: protect the sinister secrets of the forest. Rodinio's monsters and the Academy incident were just sick experiments, and Matthews connected the dots. Realizing everything was connected, a stunned Barney wondered how the magic unit could target the prince. Matthias revealed the goal is unknown, but its mastermind lives in the kingdom's heart, commanding a powerful magic unit. The royal family was crawling with bitter members, so he sought Barney's magical tools, which solved both previous cases. Hearing the plea, Barney doubted he was fit to decide the nation's fate. Matthias insisted Barney was the only master of magical instruments in the country. This was critical, so he desperately needed Barney's help. He told Barney he wouldn't let anything shake the kingdom's foundations, vowing to secure his people lasting peace. He gently placed his hand on Barney's shoulder and asked him to protect these people. Born a magic engineer, Barney knew only he could pull this off. He had loyal friends, but family came first. He'd use his strength to keep them safe, because his past life was useless. He shook Matthew's hand, accepting the bold plan. Scott offered help. Matthew knelt, thanking them for their support and clarifying their next steps. He planned to beef up his army and return to the capital to regroup. Barney told him reliable people exist in the capital, once he could finally trust. The woman, faking injury, marched deep into the forest, summoned a sinister raven with a spell, and tied a note to its leg, launching it into the night.